Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of the Ferndale Schools podcast. This week, Superintendent Blake Pruitt sits down with 2005 Ferndale High School alum and Broadway musical star Jawan Jackson.
Here today with Jawan Jackson, one of our 2005 grads, who is here today at Ferndale High School to talk to some of our students and to show him some of the success he has and how they can, get to that level. So, Jawan, just, if you want to tell us a little bit, kind of your path since high school.
My path since high school has been crazy. Right after I graduated, my mom passed away, and that was like a transitional year to college, and so that kind of like influenced what university I went to, because I was at Clark originally, Clark Atlanta University,
Great school,
and then once she got sick, I came closer to home, and I ended up graduating from Eastern and staying there for the duration, and went there, got my bachelor's degree in theater communication, theater arts, and minor in biology, and then but before that I worked at Disney for a year, and I got to like work in my field, and I got to like experience what it feels like, because I wanted to be a marine biologist, like I said initially. And then I worked in my field.
So you worked in Finding Nemo in Disney.
Basically, I was a manager at Port Orleans Resort. I did that for a year. I was a housekeeping manager, and then on my off days and spare time, I went and volunteered at local wildlife reserve, saving like sea animals and working with dolphins. And then the turning point was when I was in the water and we were doing observance of sharks. And I said, if you get me out of this, because I prayed, I said, because I'm like, I'm not supposed to be here in this water. I'm not supposed to be in this water. I'm like, if you get me out of this, I promise I won't ever come back to it. It was like this rock in the middle of nowhere. I swam to it, and I triggered the boat like, hey, come get me. And when I got back to school, I changed my major to theater communication, because I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. Like, no. So then from there, I started like the acting bug bit me, and I started doing like shows. I did my first show, But Not Buddy. That was like a big show on campus that year. And then I started doing voiceover work because people were like, I love your voice so much. And I'm like, okay, cool. And then I did a radio show on campus, and so I was doing
WEMU.
I was doing the local radio show on Fridays.
Okay. Did you ever work with Mr. Fair?
Mr. Fair, that doesn't sound familiar.
Okay, David Fair. Okay, he must not be there anymore.
And so did that. Once I finally graduated in 2011 was like my graduating year. I started working for local radio station here, WGPR 107.5, and then WCHB 1200 AM, and the Impact Network radio television show.
And was it a professor or someone on campus at Eastern that said, "Hey, it would be great for you to do some voiceovers"? Or
you know what? It was my improv teacher, Decky Alexander.
Okay.
And now like she's become like my mentor, and my just like everything. I love her to death. And she was the one that was pushing me in everything, and because I was really, really shy, and so she was like, "You have all this talent. You need to use it. You're really, really good, and you need to share this with people." And I'm like, "Really? Okay, I will." Because before that, all I did was sing. That was one thing that's been consistent since I was in high school. Since I was, a baby, was singing. Singing was all I knew. Singing, and I did a few shows here while I was at Ferndale. I did 3 shows, and then I was on the track team. I was involved in everything. I was in marching band. I was in USA. I don't know if they still have that. Black History Club. I was in this new program, NCCJ. I don't know if they still have that here. I was in just about everything in the school, and that's kind of what built my foundation. Mm-hmm. Was being here and then going back into the real world, as they would say, and seeing how diverse the world is, because Ferndale was so diverse here. Yeah. And they were like, you're not getting any other experience like you're getting here in high school, and take these experiences and carry them with you. And that's kind of what shaped me, and that's been like my road and my journey.
So I find a lot of times, because I'm a musician, and I find a lot of times that musicians in the fine arts world sometimes just wait for something to come to them.
No.
And so I think it's important for people that are looking at that field to kind of know, in your path, how did you have to really beat the streets and take initiative to try and get to where you are?
You know what? I tell everybody that it takes at least 10 years, they say, to break in the industry, and that's true, because I had to really, really work and grind and network. I had to network. I had to do a lot of things for free that I wasn't getting paid for. So you would, go into situations and gigs and really have to be there for the experience because you're inexperienced, excuse me. And you would really have to put your time in, you pay your dues. You have to help people, other people's projects in order for yours to kind of take off, and you have to put yours on the side because you're learning. A lot of these years are spent learning and honing your gift, and then you step out. But you can't just break into the industry and not have anything to show for it. You have to pay your dues, and I have to tell people that there are going to be jobs that you don't want to take. That it's but you necessarily need to take it because it's the experience that you're getting. And then once you get into the field, in this industry, in the entertainment industry, music industry, you kind of appreciate everything that you did before it because it gives you a sense of awareness okay, I get it. And now once you have it, you kind of know how to hold on to it and not let it slip away and keep going forward.
A friend of mine who's a jazz performer who's now recording, but for out of college, he sent out mailings to every nightclub, everything in the Dayton-Cincy area, multiple times just to get gigs. And he was working in different places. I mean, here's this little dinner theater and we want you to sit and play jazz saxophone for 2 hours and get paid nothing. Yeah. But it was from his determination to try and do it. So what kind of led you from Eastern to New York? How did you make that transition?
It was kind of easy because once, like I said, I got the acting bug. I started doing local things. I started auditioning everywhere. I would go online literally every day before I went to work because I was teaching theater before I went to New York.
Oh, where were you teaching?
I was teaching in the Ann Arbor, Ypsilanti school districts, and we basically would go to schools whose theater programs were slacking or didn't have any sort of fine art drama, program. We'll go, we'll implement it, and then we'll set the foundation, and then we'll leave, and then, and so it was one of those things. I was bouncing around and helped a part of the team, and I got that through my mentor, Jessica Alexander at Eastern. Okay. And she was like, you should come on, and it'd be a good experience. And then it also gave me the ability to do other things, because it wasn't required me a lot of my time. And so I was able to go out for to be extras in films. I was in Sparkle, the movie, and that was my first major film.
And that was from going online every day.
And that was from going online every
what's
day.
Out there.
And word of mouth. I got that while I was working at the radio station. The lady was like, they used my car for Sparkle. I was like, used your car? Whitney Houston's in town. Wait, what you mean? And I'm like, how do you do that? And she gave me the information. I emailed them. They called me back that day, and I worked a week on set with Whitney Houston and Derek Luke and Jordan Sparks, and I got to meet, and talk to Akil Brock, who was the director, and just take in information. And then from there, like I said, I religiously auditioned, and so I found Motown the Musical on, randomly, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try it and submit myself. And I went in thinking it was just another Detroit play, and I'm thinking it was just gonna be something small. Audition, didn't think anything of it. And then 2 weeks later, they emailed me and said, hey, can you sing this song and then record yourself reading these scenes? And I said, okay. Sent that in, didn't think nothing of that. Out of sight, out of mind. And then they called me and said, hey, we want you to come in and audition at the Motown Museum in Studio A with the director. And went in, and that's when I was like, okay, this is real. And this is something bigger than I can ever imagine. And I auditioned, and they loved me, and then 3 weeks later, they flew me out to New York. My very first official time in New York, auditioned, and then 2 days later, they called me and offered me the job, and that came from a road. But still, while I was auditioning for Motown, I never stopped auditioning because as an actor and as an entertainer, the audition is the job, and that is your role. As you audition. You're a professional auditioner. You constantly audition. You audition more times than you get the job.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that you have to work on. You have to work on the audition, because the audition is the job. And so
And you have to get used to the denial and not beat yourself down over it.
you can't, there's been auditions that I did really, really great in and didn't get the job. And there's been auditions that I thought I did really, really bad in and got the job. So it's just like,
Yeah.
I don't beat myself up too much up about it anymore. I'm just like, what is for me is for me. And, if the role is for you, you'll get it. And so all you can do is do the work.
I've heard that working on Broadway is extremely rigorous
Mm-hmm.
because you have so many shows, almost every night.
8 shows a week. 8 shows a week. We're dark on Mondays. Tuesday, we used to have 2 shows on Wednesday, and then it'd be Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But now it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 2 Saturday, 2 Sunday. So that 5-show weekend is the trick. and my first week doing shows, I caught the flu. And I never had the flu before, and because it was so rigorous and I was working my body and I was just working overtime because I was working harder than these professionals have been doing it for years. Everybody in the show has been in 16, 20 Broadway shows and just like famously known over just everywhere, singing background for Michael Jackson and Stevie Wonder, and they've been in movies, they've been in like monumental roles on Broadway, and here I am, this kid from Detroit who's 25 years old, didn't know anything, and fresh, just bushy-eyed, wide-eyed, like, hey, I'm here, happy to be here. And they're like, you're so green, and he was like, but we love it, and and it kind of re-inspires us to be on our jobs, and so that's very, very. But now, I literally go in and do the show a half hour and then go home, and I have the whole day free to do anything else. So
To audition.
To audition, yeah, to audition. But I stopped auditioning for a year because I'm on Broadway. I'm gonna settle. I worked so hard to be here, so I'm gonna stop auditioning. This job is gonna be here for a minute, and so I'm gonna let it settle in. I'm gonna take everything in, and then I started auditioning. I didn't start back auditioning until like this September.
Okay.
But I've been doing it for a year already, so now I'm like, okay, I'm ready to get back.
That's great. So if I had any kind of takeaways for our kids in our district right now is, first is be involved.
Yes.
You have to push yourself. You have to go outside your comfort level.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be afraid to fail.
Oh.
And you got to love yourself in the process.
Yes.
You can't ever get down on yourself.
And you always have to encourage yourself. Always. Because there's going to be times and days where you're not going to feel like doing it anymore. You're going to think that everything that you're doing is in vain and it feels like nothing is happening. But the moment that you start to feel that, that's when you should push even harder, because that's when something is coming bigger than you didn't expect to come. So it's always going to get harder before it gets better.
Yeah.
And so I felt like I was hitting rock bottom, and I wanted to give up, and because of my faith and because of the way I was brought up and raised, like I prayed, and then Motown happened, and that's just when I was like, this ain't working for me. I want to just get a corporate job. It'll be a lot easier. I know exactly what my schedule is. I know exactly how much money is going to come in every month, and I'm that person. I'm that adult where I'm like, I need to have set things,
Yeah.
and this industry is not. It's so sporadic. It's like gypsies. You're constantly moving, constantly. So, that's encourage yourself daily, like you said.
Yeah. Well, thank you for taking the
Pleasure.
time, and thank you very much for coming back.
Oh, my pleasure.